All right. Welcome back to another episode of Beta to Billions, where we are RevOps mystery shoppers, evaluating the hottest and latest and greatest tools in the tech universe. I'm Adam Gabi, joined as always by Gabby, my co-host, joined today by our good friend Rob Walter as our guest panelist. Robbie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Um, I am currently the head of revenue operations for Sunday Sky, a personalized video platform. Been in RevOps, marketing ops in general for probably about 10 years now, at least. And around this time of year, I really like to enjoy, I found, um, holiday movies set in London or the UK.
It's so specific.
I, some people get into Hallmark movies. Some people, just like nostalgic Christmas movies from the youth. I found I like, holiday movies set in the UK.
Is this a roundabout way of saying your favorite holiday movie is Love Actually, and you just don't want anybody to flame you for it?
Oh, Gabby, why do you have to call me out on that?
Just sorry. Just
It's not my
translate it.
favorite, however. However, I did really like it when it came out, and I think the successor to that is a movie we watched last night for the second time called oh my god, now it's Last Christmas. So you should watch that. It's on
All
Netflix,
right.
and it features the songs of George Michael. Anyway, sorry, you can edit all that out,
Thanks,
or
Rob. No,
whatever.
we're keeping it.
No,
No.
It's just it's an icebreaker, I think.
Yeah.
It's going to be a new way of introducing you, Rob. No longer the James certified GTM engineer, but Rob London style Christmas movies, Walter.
I accept that.
Related, we actually spent last Christmas, my wife and his son and I, in London. So I'm
Oh,
not like I got to live out your Hollywood fantasy in real life. It was lovely.
that's London, and Christmas is wonderful. I was there before too. It's great.
It is a good time. Our guest today is Elio Narciso. Narciso, am I saying that correctly?
Narciso in Italian, but Narciso is great.
I'm an embarrassment to my people. He is co-founder and CEO of ScaleStack, which we will be doing a fun evaluation today. Ellie, would you like to introduce yourself and give us a quick elevator pitch on ScaleStack?
Sure. Nice to meet you, all of you. Well, Adam and I met in a prior call, but my name is Elio, co-founder and CEO at ScaleStack, originally from Italy, born and raised there, but then moved here to do my MBA in Boston and then stayed. I've been here 18 years. I find New York a great Christmas city. So I actually love to spend Christmases in New York. But my sister lives in Dublin and we may go there this Christmas. The whole family is converging to Dublin. I have been building ScaleStack together with an amazing team for the past 3 years. Before that, I was at AWS, where I ran go-to-market partnerships for AWS, but particularly focused on mid to late stage startups, venture backed. And it was while at AWS that I saw that the pain that I had experienced prior to AWS in managing go-to-market data, especially a large scale, was not reserved for like growing startups that like may be messy because they are startups or because they are growing very fast, but also Amazon, one of the most well-run companies in the world, experienced similar pain points in managing, enriching, cleaning, prioritizing go-to-market data large scale. And so that's where the idea for ScaleStack was born. If even Amazon has reps hating the data in their CRM or like struggling with creating efficiently data for marketing and sales, then maybe this is a problem that many other companies have. And so we started working on this around like 2022. MongoDB was one of our first customers, and so that was also accelerated our primary focus around enterprise. What ScaleStack is, we call it an autonomous revenue engine, which is essentially agents that together with data modules create, compose, and run workflows to power go-to-market ops. And so we power sales and marketing use cases from territory mapping to CRM hygiene to account prioritization and lead prioritization at large scale. So I'll pause here. I know that you have a process and a specific way of doing this. So I'll pause here and see if you have any question on anything that I've said.
Adam, you're on mute.
I was saying this is our second episode, so process is pretty loose, which is clear, because I still don't have my technology stack down pat on my own computer. So, no, I think that was pretty solid review, and appreciate the background. The first game, if you will, which maybe has been superseded by this, is the one-line challenge. So, one sentence to describe what ScaleStack does.
ScaleStack is an autonomous revenue engine. Autonomous means that agents compose and run our workflows, and we're particularly focused on go-to-market use cases, hence revenues, and we're built for the enterprise.
Rob, Gabby, thoughts so far? Do we know what ScaleStack does?
So I know we like to sort of judge the name of the product too. So I actually, obviously before this, I have not done any research. It's best for me to come into this cold. ScaleStack, I'm getting the scaling. I wasn't quite getting the stacking. When I think stack, I think of tech stack because I'm coming from that perspective. So I'm interested to see that all come together. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I think the same thing. The stack part of it makes me think that it replaces perhaps a whole stack or integrates with any part of your stack, which it sounds like if we're talking about agentic stuff, it would pull in from all the stack you have, which then you get to a conversation about integrations and that sort of thing, and that can always be dicey. So that's my impression.
Really good. I'm glad that the scale is clear. And we do support large customers like Redis, Typeform, Stepstone, Harpy, MongoDB. On the stack, it's the latter, Rob. But Gabi, I think you also inferred to that. So we integrate with any data source that a customer has, whether that's like their CRM or data sources, third party that they buy. Think about ZoomInfo or Crunchbase or Apollo or Sixsense. And data that they own and have like internally, like about product or revenues. The idea is that while the data layer is varied and people have access to a lot of data, what's less or what's more difficult and less intuitive to do is to orchestrate all of this data to align it to your go-to-market strategy and ICP. And that's where the orchestrator comes in, which is a mix of, as I mentioned, agents, which you can consider like analysts, agentic analysts that perform like specific actions on the data. Maybe that's like validating data from a data source or deciding which data source to use if you are like cleaning or enriching accounts. Or if you have an account, like if it's a larger account, maybe you can choose like Crunchbase or Dun & Bradstreet, depending on the context that you have to solve for. And then in a combination of agents and data modules, progressively the data gets clean, enriched, and prioritized at large scale. I think really the simplest metaphor is if you were to give to an analyst, a human analyst, like the cleaning, enriching, or prioritizing of, say, account data in your CRM, a good analyst would first maybe get some data from ZoomInfo, some data from Crunchbase, maybe research some data on the public web, and then like get some insights from job postings and press releases that the company has issued. all of this is what our agents do, combining data modules and agentic research in one single workflow that creates that clean, enrich, and prioritized data set that people want in order to power downstream use cases that can be territory mapping or distributing like an equitable book of business across the sales org or prioritizing leads and signups at scale.
So think about the problem that we're solving here is the overwhelming amount of data available to any given GTM team and consolidating it down into useful tidbits to drive operations decisions. Is that a...
Yeah, it's a good summary. Companies have a lot of data, and especially larger companies. They are drowning in data. Where they are struggling is in making sense of this data for, yes, a host of use cases, and also to keep that data clean, updated, prioritized, and enriched for those use cases. Companies change, people change jobs, new initiatives are launched, new hiring, new firing. And so all of that needs to be reflected into the prioritization that sales and marketing teams have to do. Let's think about just like the problem of distributing accounts across the sales org. If you run your go-to market for a wide addressable market, so you can sell to many, and you have, let's say, like 30, 50 reps or more, it's very important that each rep is working on the right set of accounts, and that set is prioritized based on what we see through data in the market. And that's what our workflows do, like orchestrating data that companies already have, data that they buy, combined with agentic research to keep that data clean and rich and prioritized at all times.
So, for example, I have a client right now where they sell largely into, one of their best ICPs is universities. They sell to a lot of other types of organizations as well, but they're struggling with the same problem right now when it comes to territory alignment for 2026 and going, okay, we know that our best accounts are college universities, but what are the specific qualities of those universities that do make for good customers, especially ones that are likely to upsell into additional products long term? They have a great set of, their CRM is very clean. They have a great set of data internally already, but they're trying to find, it sounds like this could be a good use case. I'm trying to think of like real world examples here where combining their existing data set plus variety of signals and other data sources across the web to go, okay, we know that this set of universities is a customer. There's a much larger expanded set of universities out there. Go find me more that look like my best customers.
100%. We have 4 main top use cases. I mean, meaning that there are many sub use cases that derive from these 4 top use cases, and they are CRM hygiene, account prioritization, lead prioritization, and ICP discovery and expansion. These 4 then have lots of different sub use cases that can be powered by those, but they are the top 4. And the use case that you have briefly explained is what we call ICP discovery and expansion. Companies are constantly reassessing their ICP, maybe starting from a model that has worked well in the past, but then based on signals that they see in the market, they want to see, are there other companies or organizations that we can target? And if so, what are those? And how big is the market in that ICP? One of our latest customers is Harvey, which is, of course, a great AI company. They just raised hundreds of millions last week. And what we are helping them with is in similar use cases. Because, of course, as they expand, their market is also expanding. As they grow, they can tap new opportunities into new areas. And so absolutely, that's a use case that we support.
Team, any other questions, or should we move to visual aids?
Yeah, my turn to be on mute while talking. So as we've been chatting, I've been going through your digital presence. So I went to your website. It was really easy to book a demo, and it looks like I got the invite directly from you, which I think is a really nice touch. It did ask me for my email twice, but that is made up for by the fact that it was very easy to book a demo. I don't see pricing on here, so we'll talk about that later.
Mhm.
But it's not mentioned. I do like that you've got some case studies here because I think Adam pointed out, how do you use it, right? How are people using it? That's probably one of the first questions. And then your LinkedIn presence is great. And actually, you're going to get some bonus points from me because there's a recent post, it looks like from 5 days ago, where you used the Wong Baker Faces Pain Rating Scale in one of your recent LinkedIn posts. And I think that's really creative. Like, how painful is this in your day to day? We can solve that problem for you. So far, pretty good on the presence. What I'm not seeing, like I said, is pricing on your website. And I think I'm just not seeing like a visual of the platform. So maybe this is a good time for us to get a demo here.
Awesome. Thank you for those inputs. The pricing, I think we've been debating. We price per workflow, and so we are really linked to outcomes that people solve. We don't price per seat. The variance in price is that it depends if customers bring their own data or not. And so typically we work with customers that do bring their own data. They already buy data from multiple data sources. And so our work is purely the orchestration components and not the sourcing of the data. But if you also have to source the data, then, which we can also do, pricing variance is very big. Having said that, in terms of the platform and the visual, there are like three main pillars in our platform: integrations, agents, and the workflows themselves. Integrations means that, and let me see if I can share my screen here. Um, Integrations means that we connect to anything that a customer has. We connect to all major CRMs, lots of different data providers, sales and marketing tools. We talked earlier about the stack in our work, ScaleStack. And so we have an API first approach where, like, anything that the customer has like can be plugged into the orchestrator. And this is very important because customers have a lot of stuff and they need to make sense of all of the data that they have in many different places. Once we do that, we deploy the second pillar of the platform, which is a library of agents. And we mentioned earlier, like, let's think about an analyst that needs to perform like data cleaning or enrichment or prioritization. We have 300 plus agents templates, and these are like completely autonomous in the sense that they have their own mission. And that mission can be like, in this case, hey, I need to like make sense of the data, firmographic data of a company. They have a specific output that they need to reach. And then importantly, they have the ability to use any and all of the tools that are integrated into the platform. So if the customer has like a CRM like HubSpot, or they buy Contact Out or like Lucia data, it will be plugged into the tools that the agent has access to. And so autonomously, like an agent would do, they would perform the mission that they are tasked. And I mean, there is advanced settings like, what LLMs you want to use and so forth. But like, those are like less important for the overall goal of what the agent needs to do. And then everything comes together in a workflow. And for us, a workflow is a unit of use case. Let's say that you have to prioritize and enrich data across all of your accounts to do like, I don't know, territory mapping or, distribute an equitable book of business across the sales org. what we would deploy is a workflow that starts with an import module, and we are very flexible there. Like, we can import files, we can have direct integrations with CRMs or API integrations with data lakes and so forth. And then deploy a mix of modules, and these are like data modules that say like, they're more deterministic. Let's take data from the CRM. Let's take data from, Crunchbase or Apollo, or like inferential modules like agents. And the combination of agents and data modules creates that data sets that increasingly becomes clean, enrich, and prioritize. And the output at the end is whatever output was tasked to do at the beginning, which is, hey, I need to distribute like territory accounts by territory and by rep. We can handle the platform was built for scale. So we can handle any scale. Customers like MongoDB, Typeform handle like hundreds of thousands of accounts, millions of leads on the platform. And that's our key differentiator because we can handle that scale. Importantly, and that's the last thing I'm going to show you, these workflows are quite sophisticated. And, one of the reasons why we have grown a lot this year is that instead of deploying and building these workflows in like post sales or like, onboarding, we now have brought like the building of the workflow in pre-sales using and leveraging a reasoning agent who is knowledgeable about the platform, ScaleStack platform, is knowledgeable about the modules that we have created, the agents that we have, and other workflows that we have deployed. And so the reasoning agent, starting from like a mission that is given in English, will put together a V1 of the workflow that has like the capability to solve for that initial mission. And so if the mission is to clean like the CRM of like, outdated data, now like it's taking its time. Let me restart it. But essentially like whatever the original mission was, refresh it here. It will put together a V1 of the workflow. And this is very important because customers are experiencing the value of the platform even during the pre-sales, which is very important. I mean, in AI, we are changing the way we're doing things because we don't just want to give like people tools, but we also want to give like people like outcomes. And so in this case, now the agent is like putting together a V1 of the workflow. And like the idea is based on that, we will be able to test the workflow in real life on the platform. And this is important. This is how we're basically selling now, that in pre-sales, we are able to put together that sophisticated workflow. People are using it, testing it with their like actual data, and then hopefully buy it.
So that's really cool. Like, number one, certainly to create the workflow, because I think that would be obviously the challenge with this is like, where do I start? How do I build this? It's like looking at a blank flow canvas, right? Sometimes you're just like, eh. But does this take into account the fields you have in your CRM, your flows that existing? I mean, how much does it go into the systems, and how much does it just sort of give you like, well, generally we see this, and it gives you a generic sort of flow?
It goes very deep. And so typically customers upload like, either, I mean, it depends on where they are in the process. In like pre-sales, we typically ingest a list of attributes that they care about. And so like, and those are typically ICP attributes. Well, so to define what a good account is, what are the attributes that you use? And typically that's a list of like, between 10 and 20 attributes, not just firmographics, but like, initiatives, hiring, what teams, what technology, et cetera, et cetera. And so those are ingested as part of the process. I simplified like the agentic reasoning now just to give you a flavor of what it does. But like typically we do AI workshops with customers. In 1 hour, we're able to ingest the attributes, define what tools they use, what data sources typically they have access to, and we can put together like a pretty sophisticated V1 of the workflow during that session. And so it's not generic. It's very specific to the customer environment and also what the customer ICP is or what their go-to-market strategy is. Do they care more about like leads? Do they care more about accounts? And do they care more about like expanding the footprint, or like, they care more about like prioritizing the work of sales and marketing teams? So during the workshop, typically 45 minutes, we go deep with the customer into all of those things. And then after the workshop, we release the V1 of the workflow.
So going back to the client that I gave an example of earlier, selling it to universities and especially trying to expand with them, it sounds to me like, okay, there's going to be the initial setup to connect Salesforce and maybe connect to their existing data vendors that they're already subscribing to. But then in an afternoon, they could be up and running in terms of going, cool, here are the accounts to go deeper in. Here's a list of new potential buyers to go target. And here's a list of new accounts to go after for net new sales.
Yeah, the actual integration into their CRM or data sources happens like during the onboarding, because it usually takes a while. I mean, if you want to integrate into their Salesforce instance. But what's totally possible, and that's why our import module and export module are so flexible, is that they can send a subset. I mean, we're just in a cycle with like a pretty large enterprise. Last week, they sent like 10,000 extract from their like account list of over like 200,000. And because what they wanted to do is that with one of the workflows that we deployed during the AI workshop session, they want to identify like parent-child in that subset, identify how many of the accounts are invalid, duplicates, and how many of the accounts need updated, refresh based on the attributes that they had shared with us that are important to them. And so you can do that on a subset during pre-sales. Post-sales, yes, we integrated with their like HubSpot, Salesforce, data lake, plug actual API keys from data sources that they use.
Yeah.
How is it then writing? Because it just write back to Salesforce, HubSpot, whatever? And are there any safeguards in place for that?
Yeah, typically actually for the like export, we export into data lakes that customers have, and then they write on Salesforce. Also because if you do a direct connection on Salesforce, it's not that speedy. And like you pretty quickly hit like some speed limits there. And so customers have generally preferred like that we have reading access, we can import data, and then the writing, they do it from a data lake. And so the usual module is actually CRM import, like, and then where we have the ability to read and see what's there, and then exports in a data lake. But again, we're very flexible, and like customers and ScaleStack agree on the business logics, on the type of outcomes that they want to reach. And then like once that agreement is in place, it's it's a matter of like, deploying it. For leads, it's typically like data lakes, or it can be like for certain customers that have lower volumes, it can be like, we get the leads, we enrich it, de-anonymize it, prioritize it, and then like depending on the quality of the lead, it will be routed in different ways, whether that's like, for the marketing team, if it hits certain, specific parameters, or for like integrated with like SalesLoft for reps to do outbound campaigns or outreach or whatever tool they use.
So a couple of times you have mentioned the onboarding and sort of like pre-onboarding process where you get attributes, and I assume you put together a proof of concept so that you can demonstrate that for your prospects. What does this look like in terms of effort? This is a two-part question. Part one, what does this look like in terms of time and effort to get up and running? How much of that do you assist with in the onboarding process? Because it sounds like this is more, you need maybe some engineering resources. This isn't like RevOps team doing their best kind of thing.
Yeah. Very important question. So we have spent an enormous amount of time thinking about like this. The first thing is like strategic. I think in the world of all the enterprise sales, the idea is like, a vendor that sells a tool to an enterprise, and the enterprise is like responsible for like creating ROI from the tool. We think that the world of AI completely changes this. And like, the vendor has to deliver outcomes as early as possible, as quickly as possible. And this is very important for us. So the work that we have done is that customers typically, especially in this area, have usually like pretty urgent needs in one of those 4 areas that we discussed, like CRM hygiene or account prioritization if they have to do territory mapping exercise, lead prioritization, or ICP expansion. And so during pre-sales, our decision has been during pre-sales, the very first 1, 2, or 3 workflow, we'll build it for them during pre-sales so that they can see how you can build with ScaleStack. And so we do it for them is we don't do the full onboarding because we don't integrate it to their systems, but we do know what system they have, what tools they have. And obviously we have already done for the most part, like integrations into any of those. And so we have decided that we will create the workflow for them. Thanks to the reasoning agent is now very easy for us to do. And like, we don't need engineers. We need like, and basically a solution architect, or like, an account manager that is familiar with the platform and how to reason with the agent. Now, customers can test that with their data. The example I was mentioning earlier, we build the workflow. They sent a 10,000 unit, like a subset of their CRM, and we process it through the workflow. Then the customer receives the output and judges, data quality is fantastic. These are like the right gaps. These are like the right parent child that I can implement. And so if they say yes, we move to contract. After contract, like the onboarding is only like basic integrations into their systems because we can start already leverage the workflow that we have already built. After this, so like essentially time to value is typically 1 to 2 weeks after signatures. They can already like start like generating value from the workflow that we deployed during the presets. After that, customers have access to the platform and they can start like play with it. Based on what they've learned from the workflows, they can start building agents, they can start building workflows, they can leverage other modules, or can they leverage templates that are already existing on the platform to do any and all of those use cases. And so I would say the way we're selling is customers become experts by using. So like first they see it, then they do it together with us, and then they start like being teachers and owners of the platform.
Mm-hmm.
Because, sorry,
No, go ahead.
I'm gonna sneak one more in there, Rob.
Mhm.
Because you are obviously more focused on, that enterprise scale. What size of organization do you think is too small? Like, what is your bottom sort of cutoff
Yeah.
there to get benefit out of it?
It's a question that I want to answer like from the perspective of where I think it makes sense, but also from the competitive perspective, because there are alternatives in the market. We think that ScaleStack is for like a company with more than like 30 to 50 reps, and for like an amount of like inbound leads, let's say like, several thousands a month, hands down is the best platform. Because I mean, there is Clay, they have tables, but like with like, and it's a great product, but the orchestration that happens on the spreadsheets is limited by like 20,000 rows. And, like it's not easy to, deploy like Clay at scale. And so there is that scenario. For very large data sets, ScaleStack is like today really difficult to beat. And so we put our own threshold at around like 50 reps, 30 to 50, depending on the complexity and up. And then like in terms of size of inbounds, I mean, customers like Typeform, they process hundreds of thousands of leads with us every month. So like the inbound that we can scale for customers is enormous. And we are starting to embed ScaleStack into other people's products that need like B2B data enrichment for their own product. And that's a very interesting development on how you can use this platform. So I would say it's at the intersection of complexity and scale. You can build complex workflows on NA10, but you need like a very technical like user. ScaleStack instead is optimized for scale with the goal of like deploying workflows that are autonomous in nature. Hence the name of our platform, because first, the reasoning agent, we want it to help users to build the workflows without being technically savvy. They don't need to write Python code. They need to engage with an agent in English. Secondly, the goal for these workflows, when we talk about scale, is at the intersection of cost. The cost needs to be reasonable. Hence, you need to be very efficient in the way you consume data, you consume tokens and AI, etc. But also in the efficiency you manage rate limits and all of that kind of stuff. And so the goal is for these workflows to be autonomous. Once deployed, they do what they are tasked to do. And they don't need like you to live in the tool every day.
So you're charging by workflow, you said.
Correct.
And that would assume it's running every day?
Not necessarily, but there are like cadences depending on what's the object and what's the goal. Typically, lead objects are like more frequent cadences than account objects. Or like, that's typically like the big differentiation for us. But I would say customers define the cadence that it's good for them, which also takes into account the cost side, because we charge per workflow, yes, and it's a monthly fee, SaaS fee, depending on the complexity of the workflow. We have 5 tiers, $1,000 per month up to $7,000 per month for the most complex workflows. And then is per usage, depending, and that's the variance, is the customer bringing the data or not? And so like it's per usage depending on how many objects and if the customers is bringing their own data or not. But typically I would say that the average, we just released a version of the platform on the IBM Watson X agentic marketplace. Let me put the link here. I don't know if people are going to see this, but the price that we put in there is $79K per year, which you can assume is a good proxy for like the typical initial spend from customers on ScaleStack.
Got it.
And that includes workflows and usage.
Right. So you're assuming, let's just kind of cut to it. You already mentioned the C word, Clay. I was going to say that. But what tools would you replace with you? I mean, you've got four key areas, right? So I'm seeing like, definitely like a lean data replacement here. So like if your pitch is like we can consolidate on ScaleStack, what would that pitch be? What products would you replace?
So there are like some legacy tools that people have used and replaced, like OpenPrice. We have seen some of that. I love Clay. I think it's done great job at building a product and defining the category. So I don't think that ScaleStack would be where it is without Clay, because we were really struggling like 2 years ago to explain what the heck we were doing.
Wow, interesting.
But Clay is an individual productivity tool. So it wasn't designed. I mean, it's not that it's a bad product. It's not designed for like org level orchestration, like, the entire data set that I have in my CRM, if you are at enterprise scale. So I think that there is enough knowledge now from some pieces of the market so that typically our biggest competitor is really manual work. So the RevOps teams, sales ops teams, marketing ops teams that we serve are still doing like stitched up stuff that requires a lot of like handling from their teams. We still find people that have offshore teams cleaning the data. I mean, large companies with like name brands that we would all recognize that we're talking to. They have like offshore teams like cleaning, collating data, et cetera, et cetera. And so I would say that that's our biggest competitor right now. It's not going in and say, oh, like you should use ScaleStack instead of Clay. We have customers that have adopted ScaleStack at the org level to create the foundational data model that it's owned by RevOps, SalesOps, or Marketing Ops at large scale, and then equipped SDRs or growth marketeers with Clay to build on top of the foundational data that we create. If I were a customer, that's how I would do it. And so I think that it's totally complementary because they were designed for a different use case in mind. Not to activate like a growth hacker to find like, the next 1,000 leads and enrich them quickly across like data sources, but I have a CRM that is like 10, 12 years old, and there is a lot of terrible data, but there is also some good data, and there is clearly insights that I can use to define my ICP. I just need to make sure that like I clean it, enrich it, and prioritize it with third party.
Sorry. No, I just want to kind of ask a question related to that. So how much sort of initial compatibility can you expect? So I'm assuming the integration, it looked like from the demo that you gave us, is simply just passing an API key. So in Salesforce, I'd set up an external app, generate a key, right? We would send it that way. What does that look like though? Because if I've done, and I'm just basing this on my clients that I spend lots of time with, they're wonderful people and I love them so much, but a lot of times they've inherited something that's quite a mess, right? And it doesn't fit with the way that other teams are doing it. So how much initial compatibility can be expected from, I mean, one of the things you offer, of course, is hygiene. So if I'm sending in a bunch of sort of unintelligible data, how does that work? How do you make sense of it?
I think that this is a fantastic application for AI. I think, we're still learning a lot about AI as an industry, as people in general. But what I think we can safely conclude is that there is a lot of opportunity in the back office, and there is a lot of opportunity in work that people don't necessarily enjoy. And I would say the CRM hygiene, my co-founder hates me that I keep talking about CRM hygiene because he thinks like it sort of degrades the value of the platform that can do like really sophisticated stuff. But the reality is, like you said, great people working at great companies struggling still with like really basic stuff because the data is a mess. And it's a problem that nobody wants to tackle, that you need to spend an enormous amount of time trying to tackle it. And instead, what we are offering is a solution which is people, just like, as users, we interact with AI in our own like individual tooling. Like we are spending time teaching like the AI how we want things, trusting that they do like a lot of manual work that otherwise we would be doing, and then we monitor the outcomes. This is exactly how customers are using ScaleStack. We spend time at the beginning, define like the attributes, the cadences, the logic, parent-child, and all of that. Then we deploy the agentic workflows, and then we monitor the output. Is it perfect the first week? No. It's way better than the manual work. And the more you like basically input like the agents on how to solve certain problems, certain logics, it becomes like, a fantastic outcome. We just released a case study with Redis, who, so it's a public case study that we can mention, and they completely revamped their CRM. A 10-year-old CRM. They were really struggling with like trust in that data. And what we did was essentially revamping the entire CRM, not just like removing invalids and, duplicates and all of that stuff, but doing that. So we actually remove objects and then validating data across the board. And then enriching and doing like the parent child and making sure that like there was consistency between the Dun& Bradstreet profiles and what they had, and maybe like for the smaller accounts using other data sources. So we took them from about 40% data hygiene to 90%. And we do this with like a system that keeps learning. And it keeps learning on how to optimize like the revenue data point, which is so important for Redis or other data points that they care about.
I think the data hygiene bit is I would be louder about that, because if I think about all the dirty Salesforce instances that I've taken over or come into even fractionally and go, could I get a resource for 79K, 80K or whatever to get this cleaned up? Yeah, maybe, but it's going to take 6 to 8 months at best. And that's going to also spur on a bunch of other work streams. And it's not going to be in real time. And you're going to have to keep doing it on a rolling basis.
That's 8 months of bad data coming in that you can't, it comes in faster than you can own it.
I mean, yeah, that's an 80, that's a 100K problem just right there. Forget about the workflows and the rest of the AI and the enrichment and all the other things. Like that's a huge value, man.
100%. That's why, my co-founder and I always have this debate, but I mean, he's more product and tech, and I'm speaking with customers all day. This is what they keep telling me.
Yeah. We'll get him on next week, and we'll set him straight, because this is that's a huge thing.
Okay, so I have one more. I'm so sorry. I'm asking so many questions. So because your customers are coming with so many different use cases and you do solve several different problems, I noticed that a keyword that you've mentioned several times throughout this conversation is you're focused on the output. And also in your company values, you mentioned that you guys are very focused on results. So how are you measuring success with your customers? Is there an ROI that they can point to? Is there something that you guys are benchmarking when you begin a relationship with them? How do you measure that success?
Absolutely, yes, we monitor. I think that there are 3 KPIs that customers are very interested in. One is data quality. And so Redis had told us until we get to above 85% data hygiene, we won't do the case study. And so that's what we optimize for, and that's what we reach. I mean, when we published the case study, was at 89%, is now above that. And that's, measurable by us, by the customer. So that's relatively easy to measure and to keep track of. If you increase data quality, you start increasing trust. And trust from sales and marketing teams in using the data. I mean, something that I hear constantly, reps don't even want to enter. They don't even want to be spending time there because they think everything is bad. And that was my observation when I was at AWS. And so this is number 1. Number 2 is productivity. Somebody, and typically the best people, is actually spending time manually researching data, trying to make sense of it, whether that's one of your best reps or marketeers or poor ops people that are spinning their wheels with trying to make sense of all of this. And that has an impact in productivity for reps who in theory can reallocate their time to, be more strategic with customers, spending more time with them, etc. But also from ops people. We think that the best ops people, and, one probably criticism that I can have about Clay is that they've invented this go-to-market engineer, which is, I think, another new name for RevOps. But I think the reality is that we want RevOps, sales ops, marketing ops to be more strategic now, not revert to being engineers. I want them to talk to the CRO and to the VP of sales and be empathetic about what they are experiencing in the field and strategically implement business logics and outputs to be able to achieve that. But if you have to spend 70% of your time managing, handling a tool, a tech tool, writing Python code or fixing tables, it becomes less possible. And so productivity is the number one, and then, the number two. So hygiene, productivity, and then number three, eventually you do want to monitor like faster growth, redemption in terms of like revenues and so forth. And so MongoDB is our longest standing customers. They are able now to properly understand the ramp up in revenues because of the higher prioritization. We have a case study for that on our website, and where they were able to calculate like 53x ROI from the workflow that we enabled for them for doing territory mapping. So those are the three KPIs. One is basically immediate. Immediately you can start calculating the hygiene. Two is productivity. Three is revenue. And
Kat, any more?
No, I promised that was my last question. I could be here all day if I was.
This is very enjoyable, so no problem.
Well, we are getting close to time, so we should probably move to scoring in a minute. But Rob, do you have any last minute questions?
Elio, what's your favorite Italian idiom for dealing with a stupid person?
So that's something that I tell him or her, or something that I say behind their back? Because
both.
Behind the back, I want an idiom that's like going to sound like, your mother's a donkey or something that doesn't. Well, actually, that makes sense. I want something that like is, like your car is in the clouds. Or I don't know, something weird that doesn't quite translate.
Oh my gosh, this is pretty difficult to answer because we have so many swear words in Italian. So in your face, like I would probably tell them like "tu sei pazzo." I would do something like that.
Okay, what does that translate to?
You're like a crazy person that like has been hit in your head by something and you're not thinking clearly.
Okay, all right, gotcha.
Behind their back, I don't know. The words I would use would be very like aggressive, but we'll tell you another time.
Cool. Leave it in the comments. All right.
Yes.
Over to you.
Oh man. Okay, so scoring. So we grade on 5 categories: product market fit, usability, need, integrations, pricing, and then there's actually a 6th bonus category for just whatever we feel like giving out points for. Everything is out of 5 except for the bonus points. You can get as many as you want, or as many as we want, I guess. I'll go first since I'm already talking. Product market fit. I gave a 4 out of 5. I think this. Well, I put the 4 down before we had the hygiene discussion, so I may revise this up to 5 because that alone is worth like 3 points. I think there's just a huge need, especially for the hygiene piece, the data orchestration component. I don't know I haven't talked with any customer in the last 6 months that doesn't have some sort of AI initiative internally, whether that's for their own use cases or embedding AI in their product or using it for whatever. So there's obviously the need there. Usability, I gave a 4 only because I think the data connections to things like data lakes and larger, more enterprise type solutions are just slightly outside of my typical skill set. So it's probably more of a lack of skill versus an actual score. The integration, that was the integrations. Pricing, I think it makes a ton of sense. There's the way you price, like platform fee plus the usage plus like everything's moving to consumption-based pricing now, so that makes sense. 79K, kind of middle of the road, sticker shock at first, but for enterprise orgs, that's not going to be much. That's going to be fine. What category did I skip? Bonus points. Yeah, at least 3. 1 for being Italian, 1 for good insults, and 1 for just being very well prepared and having excellent answers throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
On the Italian thing, I put on the chat, like my friend Chris De Noia CRO and like a former Winning by Design guy.
Oh,
We
yeah.
met and I saw that like he had like a huge tattoo with like Vieni qua, because he went to Italy and this is the only thing he could hear like from fathers and mothers. And that's like, come here
This
as
is
an
very fun.
order. And he
That's
got a tattoo out of it.
We had a somewhat sort of related. We had a family friend. They had a poodle whose name was Bella, and the running joke was that her name was actually No Bella because you only ever heard No Bella. So in the same vein of Gabby, you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah. So product market fit, I also gave a 5 because you know who you are selling to. And that really stood out to me. Like the just you're up market and that's it. Like that's who's gonna, find success. And obviously a lot of thought went into that because you found the problem first. You discovered the problem and then you came up with a solution rather than the other way around. So that stood out. Usability, I actually give a 4 because the AI prompt builder worked. Like it's so many things that we try where it's like, oh yeah, we've got AI this, AI that, and it doesn't ever do the thing you ask it to do. I mean, I live in Chat GPT and I can't get it to do a single thing ever that I want it to do. So just for the
Yeah.
fact that worked, you get a 4. The need, uh, there's definitely a need, right? Like Adam touched on this. There's about 7 different needs, right? So I think that for who you're selling to, there is definitely a need. So I gave that a 4 simply because I think there's probably a lot of people hacking it together with some other things and they just may not be aware. I think there may be a lack of awareness. I give that a 4, which is actually not even really your fault, right? But just, kind of that's how I rated it. Integrations, I gave a 4. You make it look simple. I'm still a little skeptical that everybody's going to be giving you something that you need, but 4, I mean, it's almost a perfect score, right? Pricing, I gave you a 3. I don't disagree with your pricing. I just wish it was a little bit easier to calculate. And perhaps that's something that comes in the early conversations, right? But I understand the market that you're selling into. It's less of a concern. Just jumps out to me that I couldn't see it right away. However, to make up for that, you get 3 bonus points for me. You also, of course, I can't be Gabriella Orazio and not give the Italian a
Oh my
point,
gosh,
right?
of course.
So I have to give you a point for being Italian. I obviously gave you a point for how easy it was to book a demo, and the fact that the demo booking comes directly from you, I think is a really nice touch. And then also your LinkedIn presence is pretty slick. So you get a point for all 3 of those from me. So actually, yeah, you scored 23 for me, which is truth. You're very legit.
Thank you.
I lost my Italian street cred because my mom got naming rights. My dad wanted to name me Luigi, but
Yeah.
Oh, but Gabriella Orazio is great. Orazio is, I'm from Puglia, which is the south. So that's a very like southern
Yeah.
last name. So
Yeah, Adam and I have like debated what's the best Italian dessert, and he's Sicilian, so we don't really talk to him anymore. We don't let him have it.
only partly.
Okay, I guess it's my turn for scoring. Product market fit, yeah, I agree. I think 5. It really it does fit a need in the market for sure, especially at the enterprise level. Usability, I'm gonna go with 3.75 because it does. Again, I just hold back a little bit on the full, just because it looks cool, but I've prompted things before and it's come back with just weird stuff. So in practice, day to day, don't know. You look great what you showed, but I just had to hold a little bit back to be a little skeptical. Also, the flows looked really good, but then the bigger they got, it was giving me like Workato Fever Dream vibes, and that's just my personal personal trauma to bear. So that's just that. Can Salesforce do it out of the box? I mean, I give you 4 there because it can, but I mean, you definitely simplify it and keep it going probably. Although we didn't talk about auditability either. And I would think probably at the enterprise level, if you're going to do a data lake, it's probably not necessarily as big a deal as if you're going straight back into Salesforce. So a lot of these are through the vision, sort of the glasses of the enterprise, right? Not necessarily mid-market, because it doesn't seem like that's what you're going for. So fair enough. Is it worth it? You know, could you get a financial approval for it? Yeah, at the enterprise level, maybe, yeah. I think you're also like depending on like selling, and you probably know this because you're doing it, but like communicating exactly like the benefit and what it does over something else that you already have. And if you talk to somebody who's just like clueless, you know, I don't know. Sometimes they'd be like, no, I don't think we can do it. I can't see the immediate ROI. You know, it's fine to just keep a team doing this, or we don't know what these people are doing. So it's a little bit of a challenge. I would think personally, it's probably would be worth it if you could communicate that and get to the right person, obviously. Good vibes. Yeah. I like the website. I think everything's looking good there. So actually, Gabby and I tie for a 23. Truth. I give you some bonus points for the website and and your one client who was involved in a public scandal, which we won't talk about. I thought that was really cool. You put him on the website.
We put the case study before the scandal, and then after the scandal, I reached out to our counterpart and I said, oh, I'm very sorry. It must be super tough. There is a silver lining. They're like website traffic skyrocketed
Through the roof.
like, through the
Yeah.
roof with a lot of interest. And like, what is that they do?
Yeah. What is it?
And
What is it that they do?
and it seems that they've recovered quite nicely. And the marketing team there did an awesome job and walking that fine line. There
Yeah,
could have
hats off
been
to them.
this tasteful, but instead they did it nicely and they
Yeah.
capitalized on it.
Yeah, really unfair for the team there when
Yeah, exactly.
that
Also,
doesn't
the team
reflect
had
on
not.
any of
Yeah,
them. Yeah.
exactly,
So
exactly.
it is good that it worked out
Yes,
for the
great
better.
customer, by the way. We can say astronomer. They
Yeah.
are a great customer.
Cool. Well, I think we're aligned yet. Great scores across the board. I think we all agree this is definitely the truth. This is not just another SaaS. Elio, thanks so much for taking the time out of your
Yeah,
day
thank
to
you.
chat with us
Thank
for a
you.
while.
Elio.
It was
Very
a lot of fun.
enjoyable. Looking forward to see the output. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
See you.